March 18th, and just gonna take a look at the markets before I take any requests. And it looks like some of the gains that the market gave yesterday, they are giving it back a little bit today, which is actually not that surprising because there was a good 4%, or sorry, 4 point rally for the SPY, and everything else went up like 3 points and 2 points for the IWM. So going back a little bit today kind of makes sense a little bit. So we're going to just start with the SPY here and just take a look that essentially what I'm noticing is price is going back down to the 50-week moving average right now, pre-market, and even possibly another back test of that 561 is still possible as well. So 565.65, that's what price is pre-market right now. The 50-week is right at 567.15. So this is the zone that I'm looking to hold, right? And if price can maintain at least that 50-week moving average throughout the whole week, then the possibility to go higher in the weeks to come is there. Even with the Ichimoku, we can see that the baseline and the conversion line are at the same price up here at 581. So price could even gravitate back up to that zone before any kind of a retrace if this is successful this week for a strong weekly candle close above this resistance. So that's really what I'm watching is the 565, right? Or sorry, the 565.04. That's what I'm watching right there, 565.04. The 50-week moving average. And now we're going to do QQQ. And QQQ also has the potential to try to break above its 50-week moving average as well, but it's getting rejected already. It already got rejected yesterday and sold off, and now it's a little bit weaker pre-market. So does it need to come back down to the 472.65? Maybe. We'll have to wait and find out. But this is just normal weakness because it got rejected by that 50 because it started to close and open candles underneath that, which makes perfect sense for it to have a little bit of weakness today since yesterday got rejected. So I will be watching that 472 to see if it does need to go back a little bit lower first. But it looks like it has potential to maybe start trying to build a foundation here near the cloud, near the 472, and then try to go. So I'm not too concerned about QQQ at the moment since I already back tested that 472 and it bounced. Nice wick last week as well. So take it 1 day, 1 week at a time. But if it establishes a base in this zone, then I think it can maybe climb the cloud out of there and be a little bit more bullish in the weeks to come. And IWM is going back down as well to this 203 right here, the 50% level. The 203.07, that is exactly the 50% level, and it is looking like it is still above it pre-market, 204.14. So with that said, we can just see that maybe price can stabilize on top of all the support, especially last week. There was a perfect wick through all of that resistance or support, the 200 week, the 100 week, and that 203.07. So this does have the potential to start building a nice base here, especially when you go to the month chart too for IWM. We can see that it even wicked right through the baseline and the 50-month moving average and that 203 as well. So a lot of support on the weekly and monthly indicators here for IWM. So I'm not too concerned about this one either. The only thing that could be leading the way right now is the SP, and the SPY is also still holding the monthly conversion line, right? The monthly conversion line at 561.75. But the reason why it's leading the way is because it's still above the weekly 50. And if that can stay above it, then I think the QQQ and the IWM can follow suit and they all can go up together. So this is looking like it's still in the process of a bottoming process, which takes time, right? It keeps testing support during that bottoming process as well. All right, let's go do Tesla next, since Tesla is going down pre-market. We can take a look here at Tesla and just let's zoom in. So I'm just going to use the monthly chart on this to show you guys, to demonstrate what's really supportive for Tesla, and that is the 233 is basically the top of that cloud, that's this monthly Ichimoku cloud. Then we got the 618 here at 242.44. Then we got the angle right here that it's been perfect support for a long time. And that angle is right around the same price, maybe 234. And it is below that pre-market, but this is a monthly candle. So I'm mostly focused on now how this month is going to close. And like I said yesterday, I'm really watching that 242.44. But best case scenario would be a close above 250. And the reason why is that angle or that arc right here is right around 250. Not only that, if you go to the Bollinger Band, it is also the 20-month moving average right here as well with 248.21 currently. So closing above that monthly support, 248, 250 would be ideal by the end of March. So I'm not really focused on the day-to-day stuff with I'm not really focused on the day-to-day stuff with Tesla, more week over week and the month over month. And closing back above that 250 would be key for good continuation back up. But otherwise, and if it does continue a little bit lower throughout the month, I think it's okay as long as it recovers by the end of March back above all these levels. All right, so I see people are in there. Good morning. Benny, I'm debating on selling all my MicroStrategy and converting it to Hood for a bit more safety. Well, I mean, they are both good charts. So we can go take a look at first the MicroStrategy chart here. And I wanted to just show the monthly chart for MicroStrategy to show you that it's actually still maintaining inside of the baseline here of the monthly Ichimoku cloud indicator. So that is at what is that? 280.92. Last month it did close below, but we got a big gap up here. And this month it did actually open inside and it did go back all the way down again, but it's still maintaining that. So this is not really that weak anymore because support of that 245 is holding. Also that 280.92 is still kind of holding as well. And everything is just really waiting on Bitcoin. So it's not that bad. It just had a big, huge breakout that went all the way to the 1.618, the 542.96. And usually when things go to the 1.618 on log scale, they do go back and retrace a little bit before trying to make its next leg higher. And that's exactly what MicroStrategy is doing. So it looks like it could be in the bottoming process here by maintaining this 245. So that is really what I'm watching with MicroStrategy. And with Robinhood, we'll take a look at the monthly chart as well. And it is a little bit more bullish as it's still maintaining the conversion line and the baseline. But also, it's still not even all-time highs, right? So it does have potential to maybe make more percentage gains, but they're both really in a support zone, right? So switching one for another, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to do that because oftentimes when people do that, they get left behind because the one takes off and the other doesn't. So I don't really like to play that game of trying to chase the next big one. I just like to have the multiple stocks, multiple crypto, multiple whatever. So I do have them both. And I think they both still have potential to be holding their support zone. So I guess inevitably the choice is yours, really. Does Robinhood have more potential to go a lot higher? Possibly, right? But so does MicroStrategy. It all depends on Bitcoin if it's going to go higher or not as well, right? So if Bitcoin starts to break out, then I think they're both going to start to do well once again. So I guess that the choice has to come down to you, which you kind of prefer. But for me, my style is not just choosing one or the over the other. I prefer to choose both. Thank you and TT Tesla Tracker for the nonstop efforts each morning. If you have time, can you look at CPNG? Yeah, I'll look at CPNG this morning. So CPNG is also on the monthly basis. It's holding the monthly conversion line, is holding that 45-degree angle. We'll go to the weekly chart here and see that Price is trying to get more bullish, but it's below the weekly conversion and the baseline up there. And this is trying to get on the top side of this arc once again, which was a previous resistance in the past here. And now it's trying to be a support. It's trying to flip it to support, but I think it's kind of running out of time. So even if it doesn't close above this week, maybe in the weeks to come, it can get closer to this cloud here and then start to get to the top side of the cloud. So I think it is in the process of trying to get more and more bullish, this 45-degree angle, as we can see even on August 5th, it held perfectly and it hit again in January and it hit again in March. So this symmetry, it looks like it wants to be a little bit more bullish. It just has to get above all this resistance here. So I do like it down in the 22s here, but the potential to get a lot more explosive is going to be closing candles above this 24.89. So until it starts to close above that, I think it's just going to start just be in this range for some time, maybe retesting the cloud and before going higher, because it is still a series of lower highs here. So I think it's just going to take some time to break above that resistance above. Enphase, yeah, Enphase is actually doing better and better. Enphase, it hit market symmetry perfectly of the arc. It took a there. It didn't hit it back in November 2024, but it came back up to like expected, and it rolled over and finally got to the arc. And that's really what I was focused on, and it nailed it, right? And now it's even getting back above this conversion line, the 61.21. We haven't really seen that in a while. Close a weekly candle above it. It did not close it here. The last time it closed above was really back in September of 2024. So it's been a long downtrend for Enphase, but I think it looks like it's coming to an end, right? So possibly the 61.21 can hold. And if it holds throughout the week, that could flip to a support then, and then possibly the next leg hike us all the way back up to the 74, maybe even the 236 here, the 77. So I think we could see some temporary upside for Enphase back to resistance up here. But then after that, we'll see where it wants to go, right? Because going back to resistance doesn't necessarily make it bullish. It just makes it go back to resistance. To make it a lot more exciting, it would have to really start to close candles above that 77 again, because you can see right here with this wick, that 77 was already rejected once. So getting back above it and closing above it and staying above it would lead to higher prices. But in the meantime, yeah, it looks like it has room to go higher, right? As long as this conversion line holds for the weekly candle close on Friday. Yes. ADA and XRP. All right, we'll go take a look at some of that crypto right now. So ADA first. There's really not much with ADA except it's stuck under the 200-week moving average for the past 3 weeks in a row. And that just means it's in a range. It's range bound, and it still has potential to go back to the bottom of that support there at 60 cents. And that is your resistance and support. So it's a bullish chart. It's a big breakout. It's just finding its higher low. I think it found it with the back test of the cloud there. And now it's just working on building some momentum to try to go higher. So be patient with this one, because nothing really is going to be explosive for this one until this 618 is cleared as resistance, that 112. So we can just see it stuck in this giant range here for a while. Like we can see some of these bullish engulfing candles, then bearish engulfing candles, but they really don't mean anything until it breaks above that 112. But if it does get closer to 60, I think that could be a good opportunity for support. And XRP is still trying to maintain this 886, the 225, 877. It is a little bit below it right now, but that's not really a surprise since Bitcoin kind of got rejected by its resistance yesterday as well. And that means your support is still the baseline below at 194. And the resistance really is the conversion line. So that's your giant range that it's been in for a while. It's between the conversion, 256, and the baseline, 194. And it's been retesting that multiple times now. So no change there. And If this baseline were ever to be lost as a support, then it probably would go back to the 786, the 160s. But until then, it's just stuck in a really tight range for P and looking for it to maintain this 225 level for the rest of the week to maintain that kind of as a support because it has been spending more time on top of it than underneath it. So we'll take this one week at a time. Coinbase. Yeah. We'll take a look at Coin here. So Coinbase, this is also another one that's just in between a range, right? It has the range of the ARC right now, 192, 193, and the bottom of the cloud, maybe 177. And then you even have that 100-week moving average that's just lonely right there because never since it broke out in November of 2023, never been touched. So the potential to go back down there is still there, right? Because it's just only down there that maybe if Bitcoin goes down a little bit more, that perhaps it does want to wick down there one last time and get that down there. So stuck in a range, nothing exciting really is going to happen until it tries to get back above this 197 again, 197.27, this fib level. And then it'll have room to go much higher after that. But until then, stuck in a range, and I can see it here for maybe a couple of weeks, just like we saw all the support down here for Coinbase stay there in that range for a few weeks as well. So it can just take it 1 week at a time. But essentially, it's trying to find a nice base here, but still not sure if it needs to go touch that 100 or maybe even a little bit below before trying to reclaim everything and go higher again. So still the market structure is fine. Nothing's really bearish about this. We can look at the monthly chart here. And if we go to the monthly Bollinger Band, it's right on it, right? The monthly Bollinger Band for the 20 moving average, it's right at 189.25. It is a little bit below it pre-market, but that is actually showing great things because it's the first back test since it started to slope upwards, right? It started to slope upwards back in November of 2023, and it never really even touched it once except for right now, right? Not even back here in September of 2024, it did not touch it. So it finally touched it. Right now it's wicking through, so I'm going to be watching that for the monthly candle as well to see if it can close above. But ideally, I would like to see the month close above this 197.27. Yeah, how about INTC? So Intel held its support. So Intel, this was a perfect illustration of what happened with Intel. The green level of the GAN was support, and it gave opportunity month over month over month over month over month over month. So many months in a row, it gave opportunities for accumulation down there. And then finally, it just took off. And now the conversion line on the monthly chart is 27.84. So it is coming into some resistance above in the 27 or the $28. We can look at the weekly chart as well and see that it's actually at the point where it's trying to break above this 50-week moving average and the arc. So this is kind of a big resistance zone because you also have the cloud right there in the weeks to come. So I'm not sure if it's really ready to break above. It already wicked above massively before, and that wick indicates a lot of selling pressure. So I'm not too convinced yet that it really wants to go higher. So I am cautious. It is a resistance zone right now. And with that said, it could easily go back down and retest the 23s or even a little bit lower before it really wants to try to break inside the cloud. So right now, I'm watching this current resistance level right now. And would I be interested in buying here? No, because this is resistance. This was the true opportunity that it gave many, many months as an opportunity to buy. But now this is something that is going to be cautious for me because I don't know if it's ready to break above. And no one talking about TEM now that we have retraced. Yeah, a lot of things people don't like to talk about after they sell off a little bit because people like to chase all the time. But TEM, all it did is go back to this 382 right here, and it hit perfectly wicked below, and now it's trying to break back above the $50 level. And it is getting rejected at the moment. So I'm not too bullish just yet, but it looks like it could be in a bottoming process, right? So if it comes back down to like 44 zone, I think that could be an opportunity because this could be starting to build a nice foundation in that zone. And we can go to the left and see, yeah, that was a pretty big resistance in the past, right? It's not a very long history of a chart, but it was a big resistance in the past here and flip to support. So this zone really has good potential to hold. So it's almost there, 48, but it is closer to resistance than it is support. So it could drift a little bit lower before trying to stabilize and go higher. So TEM actually has a good chance of getting out of this support zone and getting to the upper levels of resistance here back in the 50s and 60s once again. And XOM, Exxon Mobil. I think we'll have to look at the weekly and the monthly chart for this one, because after retesting this one level, and that was the previous high set back here in July of 2014, right? It retested it. It retested it finally, right? A couple of times actually. And after that successful retest, it went up towards the resistance right now. So it is kind of near weekly resistance at the moment, which means I would be a little bit cautious because not sure if it's going to break through all of this. But we can go to the monthly indicators just to see that also we have maybe a back test of the monthly conversion line coming as well, which could actually be some weakness as well because it could get rejected there. And maybe it wants just more time to gravitate towards the cloud here before going higher. And ultimately, you can see all these wicks right here, right? All these wicks right here. This kind of implies that there's still a lot of selling pressure up there. So even if it does go a little bit higher, I think it has a good chance in the 116s, 117s, 118s to get rejected and possibly come back down, even to retest that one level one more time. So it's just sideways. You can just look at this monthly chart. Since it broke out November of 2022, it's just literally sideways and nothing has been happening at all. So I think it's very boring. I think it's just got really overextended on this monthly chart, right? Really extended over here. So it's just been traveling sideways, buying time, letting 50-month moving average catch up to price and also get closer to the cloud as well. All right, we'll go to, I already did Tesla, but I can check out TSLL too. So TSLL, some things that I think are good to watch here are it did hit this go below right there. It is floating in the middle of a zone. It is going closer back down to the angle. So anything back down to the 740s could be that support, right? Just another wick down below it. But you can really see that from here, it's still not really making lower lows. So it still is looking like there's a potential for a bottoming process of Tesla, of TSLL right here. So it's just a big breakout, a big overextension of this blue level, and now a big retest. So still nothing is too scary for this stock currently because most of the damage has already been done, right? So I think in this zone, it looks like it has potential to hold on because after this V bottom here, it's just basically backtesting all of this demand zone right here, all of that demand zone right here, all these candles, right? So it's just staying within that zone, trying to test it for a second week in a row. All right, I'll do a few more because since I'm solo, I'm going to end these at 9 o'clock before I start my private live stream for my tier 4 Patreon people. With that said, we'll go to Rocket Lab RKLB. So Rocket Lab, we can see that price is underneath the baseline, underneath a lot of this support that it was at before. So I don't really see any kind of explosion coming soon. I see more consolidation, more retesting this maybe $17 zone, maybe even retesting the 786 down here at 1447, right? Maybe even another retest lower before it gets closer to the cloud here and wants to go higher once again. So I don't really trust it in the middle of this zone because it already got rejected by all this previous support. Now it's resistance. So if it cannot break above the 20 or 21, $22 zone here, then I think it might gravitate lower once again. First, retest the lower levels of support before going higher. So I will be a little bit cautious here for Rocket Lab before any kind of opportunity to go higher. And I see another one, Nvidia, NVDA. So Nvidia, it was a clear rejection of that 50-week moving average, and that is 122.57. And this is something that's kind of crucial to stay above. Like I really need to see Nvidia stay above this 122 to have confirmation that it really wants to start to continue higher. Because if it keeps getting rejected in this zone here, then the likelihood of retesting the cloud or even getting inside the cloud and going lower is there. So all it did is hold the cloud straight back up to resistance. People got all excited, but that's usually typical because people get excited up at resistance. And due to that fact, I'm not too excited about this right now until it can prove that it wants to break. So I'm watching that 122 level, watching it closely, need to see a break. And in the meantime, it's prices underneath. So we could see this maybe for a couple more weeks, right? Just retesting the cloud before trying to break out into April and go higher, right? Or we could see it do this, go down, go back up, go down, and then lose the cloud and then head back down to the bottom of the cloud down here into the 90s, right? Those are the two scenarios, but it all depends on if this 122 can get reclaimed by the end of March, right? The monthly candle, I would love to see it close above for confirmation that it wants to try to continue higher. So I think with that said, guys, I'll end it right there. And essentially, we're probably going to just see more weakness and retesting of supports. And it's proof here on the SPY that we have the 561 that could be retested today. We have the QQQ that could be going back to the 470s again, the lower 470s again to retest that as well. And the IWM, right? Maybe retesting the 203 or even the 201 below. So things are not looking quite ready to go higher yet just because the QQQ is proof what happened yesterday. It got rejected by the 50-week moving average. And when things can't break above, they go back and retest lower levels. So that's what we're seeing today. So just a little bit more pins, but we'll see. It's only Tuesday. We could end the week strong still if things can break the resistance by the end of Friday. So with that said, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow.